Tools to Live By, presented by Veyer Watches. Of course, Veyer was rocking all the way through El Salvador.
Of course it was. You knew what time it was. You were sitting there on the plane when the time was changing. Your phone
Mhm.
was on airplane mode, so it didn't know the time was changing. But guess who knew? Your Veyor watch.
They even sent a bonus watch down for me to give to Nick Timponi because I was interviewing him for Surf Splendor.
Sweet. How
So
thrilled was Nick to get his Veyor watch?
he was psyched.
I'm
So you
telling you,
will you
giving
will
a
be
watch, yeah, giving a watch is like the coolest thing ever. I mean, it's a manly thing, it's a cool thing, it's a timeless thing. It is all the things.
they do the Timponis, by the way, if you don't already know, do the coolest board building videos on Instagram.
I follow him now.
Nick's done a phenomenal job of I mean, he and I had conversations years ago about is it worth investing in Instagram? Like the amount of time it takes to when you're laminating a surfboard, you're under a time crunch, because catalyst is catalyzing, resin is catalyzing. And so it takes time to pull out your phone and to document it all and then editing the thing because it takes hours and hours to do the board build. Editing that down into 90 seconds is it's just
Painful.
time consuming. And so, is it worth it or not to do it? Well, he's invested in it. He's gotten really good at it as an editor and a filmer. And the boards, of course, that they're doing are incredible. And so, being able to document that and showcase it with the world, they've amassed a 150,000 Instagram following through doing it. And they're
Boom.
only growing from here. Like, it's incredible what they've done with it. So,
The Timponis and the Kardashians.
exactly, together again. And you'll see that Veyer watch in those Instagram videos, I'm sure, from now on. So,
Very smart of Air.
very smart of Veyer, Vaer. Oh, we have a landing page where listeners can save 15%. It's Veyer Watches /Surf Splendor. Listeners send us inquiries. They need tools to live by. So here we go. Hey, David and Chaz, I'm riding into the grit with a question that has been nagging at me for some time. I grew up away from the water in landlocked Pennsylvania and didn't arrive on the West Coast until I was deep into my 20s in the year 2000 when I rode the dot-com bubble to San Francisco. My move was motivated primarily by a yearning to start over on my own terms, away from everything that had shaped me up until that point. And to that end, I quickly became new friends and discovered new pastimes that both felt more authentic than anything that I had left behind back east. The proximity to such incredible natural beauty was one of the things I came to appreciate the most about my new home, and I gradually find more and more opportunities to explore it. There were occasional trips to Tahoe, but skiing wasn't really my thing. Mountain biking became an obsession for several years, but as my circle of friends somehow began to include more and more surfers, the inevitable draw to the ocean became irresistible. I'd known a lot of people who'd said they'd surfed, but they only ever really dabbled. They'd eventually tire of the cold water, the long drives to the beach, the ever present fear of sharks. They'd get injured, get beat down by a wave, and get denied on the paddle out one too many times. Or maybe they just got too busy with work or a girlfriend or partying or whatever. I probably came close once or twice myself for all of those reasons, but thankfully, the memory of a recent wave or my new group of surf obsessed friends were always there to pull me back to the ocean. By 2007 or 2008, I had rearranged my life primarily around surfing, foregoing any sort of full time office job in favor of freelance work so that I'd be free to surf when and where I wanted to. I graduated from my training grounds of Bolinas and Pacifica and was regularly surfing OB when it wasn't huge. I'd been on countless international surf trips, mostly to Mexico, Costa Rica, but also exploring Bali, Brazil, Sri Lanka. I relocated to SoCal several years ago, in part because the surf here was more accessible and inviting. I considered myself a competent, respectful surfer. And while being a dad of two young girls doesn't allow me to surf as much as I once did, I still get out fairly regularly. I get the occasional good wave and even sometimes a compliment. I'm not throwing buckets of spray. I mostly let the wave do the work, but on a good day, I may make a steep drop or a fast section, maybe put in one or two well-timed and graceful looking, though not exceptionally radical turns. At age 50, my best days are probably behind me, and I'm content to have plateaued at intermediate hood. However, I have one confession. I have never been properly barreled. Sure, I've pulled into a closeout only to punch through the back of the wave. I recently watched as a bit of spray chandeliered over my head and shoulders, but I've never intentionally pulled into a tube, had any sort of vision, or made my way out. So, my question to you is, am I a kook? In other words, is getting barreled a prerequisite for graduating kookdom, or can I continue to call myself an intermediate surfer? Work, Rob.
Tough one. David Lee Scales. This is a tough one.
This is a
Th-
bizarre one, too. Like,
this is as tough as it gets, I think, right here. We have reached peak toughness, but thankfully, you and I are here. I'm going to say our dear listener just has to make this right. You don't have to be a barrel hound. You don't have to be a like, oh, I've spent so much time in the green room that basically moved in, right? But just go find that wave that's barreling and sort it out.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure he's tried that before. You know
Maybe
what I
not.
mean?
Maybe he doesn't care.
I mean, he's writing into a podcast to discuss it. I think he does care. I think he's confronted by this. I think, like, look, I don't think he's actually concerned that he's a kook. I think, again, he came up with a question that he could kind of phrase this around. But I think that this is inner turmoil for him. The fact that he's never been barreled. I never considered this up until I read this guy's email that you could exist that long as a surfer and not get barreled because I just figure the amount of hours put in, opportunities present themselves, you know? Um, I mean, the idea, he said he's never even had the vision.
For
Never
sure he
having the
has.
vision? That's shocking to me.
For sure, though, he's been in a closeout looking out, right?
He said he's gotten into closeouts, but pulled out the back. I mean, when I've pulled into closeouts, you pack them straight. So you do get that vision, you know, before you don't pull out the back.
Okay, so do we need, I mean, this would be a calling, we need it like a Brad Gerlach like Batman beacon that goes into the sky. And then we call Brad Gerlach because I Brad could get this guy. I bet this guy's is his name Rob?
Yeah, Rob.
So I bet Rob, you go like having never been barreled, and I'll know, speaking of myself, right? I am no like barrel chaser. I don't go into the water, even when it's barreling. Like I'm so preconditioned to surf a wave a certain way, right? Like even if you can get a barrel, sometimes you're just, oh man, I wasn't thinking about a barrel, right?
Mhm.
Like you need I think the Brad Gerlach, okay, this is what you do. Maybe Rob just doesn't know how to get barreled.
I mean, you just stand there, really. I mean, you need a wave that's barreling, first of all.
You need a
But
wave that's barreling, but you need to like
at his level of competence,
you need to look like a certain way where I think the barrel is a dizzying place to be, right? Like I've been in barrels before where you just lose, you should just everything should be you follow your board out, right? Everything is fine. But I'll get like kerflummoxed and realize, oh, I'm like now hugging the wall of the wave, and now here I go over the falls.
look, there's all the different styles of barrels. You know what I mean? Like there's um tiny almondy ones that you need to like get up high and contort into a weird position, or then there's bottomed out ones where you need to kind of make sure you don't get sucked up the face, so you're pointing your board more at the beach. And then there's just super easy ones that, I mean, I can remember one in Huntington on a just regular A-frame morning, like probably a fall morning, that it was just you couldn't surf it wrong. I just got up. It was clearly barreling. There was only one option. You just hug the wall. Thing barreled gently and easily, and I came out as simply as possible. Like you could have been a beginner surfer and gotten that thing. So, I, to answer his question, first of all, because he did pose it as a question, am I a kook? You're definitely not a kook. I
No,
don't think a barrel is the defining factor whether you're a kook or not.
no, it can't be
It,
that
it
simple.
it would be an interesting exercise for you and I to define what a kook is, but I think we could do that at a later date. The more interesting exercise here is to figure out how to get this guy barreled. Like
Yeah,
level of competency indicates that he can absolutely get barreled if the waves are barreling.
yeah.
And so how do we get this guy into a barrel?
That's why I want
And
to flash my Brad Gerlach
I mean,
signal.
I like that. That's a definitely a good start, although it might be impractical. The other problem this runs into is what we've stated in the past about setting too high of an expectation. Because if I go, hey man, book a trip to Colorado's in Nicaragua where it's barreling all day, every day. It's like once you set the intention, I'm going to get barreled, you're almost guaranteed to underfulfill your expectations.
Completely, especially if you're going to go like, quote, get barreled, right? Like
Yeah,
get a
yeah,
proper barrel but there is waves up and down. He says he's relocated to Southern California. There's waves up and down that barrel, right? That's not great
yeah.
barrels, but like Huntington, you're exactly right. Those days, those whatever direction it is where it hits the sandbars, right? And there's barrels up and down, right? Where go do a little barrel hunting in your own backyard, friend. Just like at the beach break at there ain't no, I don't think that I can think of like real barrely point breaks here in Southern California that are like consistently just going off, right? But
Yeah.
there's most of these are beach breaks that I'm thinking of in my mind
Yeah.
of like the beachy where the sandbar has filled in and there's a way just go and just quietly you can tick this box, no problem. Just go tick the box.
I mean, I feel like it's an easy problem, a relatively easy problem to solve for somebody at that level of competency in Southern California. Like there's plenty of opportunities around. What I will suggest to him is this is what you want something to chase, basically. In surfing, like the idea that you're never perfecting it is what keeps you coming back and trying to improve constantly. And I think that's a super healthy thing. It can get unhealthy in the example of Kelly Slater, where
Mm.
you've achieved well more than you ever set out to achieve, and you broke records that we never knew could be broken, like beyond all sports, just outside of the surfing world. Like you've broken every record. It is okay to hang your hat and go spend time with the family at this point. The type of chasing he's doing is unhealthy. The type of opportunity that Rob has as a 50-year-old with two kids of here's a very achievable goal, getting barreled somewhere in Southern California at your level of competency. It's encouragement to get up tomorrow morning before the sun comes up, pack your
A little
car,
barrel.
and go down to the beach.
It makes me want to do that, to be honest. It makes me think, "Hey, I'm gonna go get barreled tomorrow. I'm gonna figure out how to go get a little barrel tomorrow." That's like a fun little it's like a little white goldfish.
It is.
It's not your white whale.
Well, and I will second what you're saying about sending the bat signal to Gerlach. Just go to wavekey.com and set
Exactly.
up a subscription, because those fundamentals that he gives you will put you in a position to where if you're a regular footer and a left is coming your way and it's wedging up, it'll allow you the knowing how to contort your body to take off on that wave and to get barreled rather than
Punch through the back.
or getting to your feet and making the drop. And as you're bottom turning, realizing the waves barreling behind you. And if you had been more prepared, you could have slinked into that thing, pig dog
Yep.
stance
Yep.
and got blown out with it, because that was your
Yep.
one opportunity. So,
Wave
um,
key.
w- preparation is, I think, key in helping this guy succeed when the opportunity presents
But
itself.
but what a great this is like, when you look back and think, man, if I could go experience for the first time again, how great that would be, right? Like this guy is Rob is in an enviable position to go on this barrel journey at 50. He will fully appreciate it. And those who have been barreled before him will look back and say, I remember my first. Wish I could go back and do it again. But you can't. You only get one first, right?
I
Rob
can't,
has
yeah,
saved this deliciousness for the end. He has saved his dessert as he was supposed to. Everybody else got up, started eating dessert first, ate the dessert right in the middle. Rob saved it for the end.
he
Bravo.
did. And I don't even remember my first barrel, and
Yeah.
that is a shame. And he will forever remember it because
Yep.
he's doing it later in life.
That's what I'm saying. Rob may be the wisest surfer of all, not a kook.
Maybe.
Wise.
Definitely not a kook, Rob. All right, VayerWatches.com/surf splendor. Thank you very much, Vayer, for supporting us in this endeavor.